Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Scott Morganoff, Motor City Madmouth, inappropriately, located in Florida, since this is Fire Up Florida. I don't know. Then again, we're all remote anyway, so who cares? But anyways, we have a good show lined up tonight. We're going to be talking about Bill Zito and the Stanley Cup making its visit to Milwaukee. Okay, did they put beer in it? I don't even know. I didn't go that far. But anyways, let's introduce the crew. Candy, who is from that neck of the woods, is kind enough to join us tonight. Welcome, Candy.
Thanks, and I'm glad. I'm normally here on Fire Up on Thursday nights, but I'm here on Fire Up Florida. All right.
Look at that. I love it. That is good. I can even hear that Fire Up all the way in another room in the joint. So she puts everything into it. I love when she does that. All right, Icorn.
Welcome back hi, to the this is George Icorn reporting live from Detroit, Michigan, home of the Red Wings.
Okay, that's fine. We're not renaming it the Panthers Lightning Red Wings show. I'd have to go through a lot of hoops to do that. But
good to be here, guys.
And last but not least, the Cats and Bolts podcast. The ringleader of it all is Rod Peterson. Welcome back, Rod.
Howdy, everybody. Great to be here. In this business, it's great to be anywhere, as you know. And tonight I'm repping the Bolts from the Cats and Bolts podcast.
No problem. All right, well, you know what? We're going to let Candy lead off with the first topic because she knows it all too well. And then we'll go ahead and proceed from there. All right, Candy, know more about it. I'm going to let you take the lead here as the host, especially of this particular topic. Go ahead, Candy.
Well, as most of you, if not everybody knows, that Bill Zito was named the Panthers GM on September 2nd, 2020. And they won their first Stanley Cup history when they defeated the Edmonton Oilers 2-1 in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final on June 24th. That was the second consecutive season the Panthers made it to the finals. And what they did is they're allowing most of the players, or if not all, and some of the front office to take the Stanley Cup and take it to wherever they might want to. So Bill Zito took it back to his roots. His roots actually started back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was actually a bat boy for the Milwaukee Brewers when he was 16 years old. So let's take the Stanley Cup to Milwaukee. Why not? They've never had a Stanley Cup. They don't have an NHL team. They have an AHL team in the Milwaukee Admirals, which is an affiliate with the Nashville Predators. So yes, he did take it to the Milwaukee Admirals. He did take it to the Milwaukee Bucks. He did take it to where his high school, University School of Milwaukee. He took it around the town. He took it to Freighter Hospital, which is one of the big hospitals in Milwaukee. But the fun thing, and yes, Scott, he took it to a brewery. I do not know if they drank any beer from it, but they did say that they did take it to a brewery. But there is also another place that is near and dear to my heart, and it's called Cop's Frozen Custard. And it's a mom and pop frozen custard place. They have 3 locations around the city. They're known for their frozen custard, but they have burgers and you name it, they have it. But it's like a little fast food place. They actually put frozen custard or ice cream in the cup, and him and his family and friends ate from it right out of the cup. They took it down to Miller. Well, that's not Miller Park. It's American Family Fields where the Brewers play, and they took it in the locker room. And they had the players looking at it. They had Mr. Bob Uecker, the voice of the Brewers, for the longest time. He was in there and had it. And I thought there was a really one of the Brewers they talked to, his name is Sal Frelick. First time seeing it up close and personal, being able to touch it, read the names on it. It's pretty cool, said right fielder Sal Frelick, who hails from Boston but grew up as a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I think it's the best trophy in sports. I really do. There's so much tradition behind it. You can see the teams that win the Stanley Cup. Everyone gets their day with it and to take it to different places. It's unique to the sport, and it's unique to the trophy in general that you don't get in other sports. It was a great day for Zito and his family. one he wouldn't mind repeating.
So there you have it. Okay, first of all, we talk about cops. You know what? I know their custard's good, but after having that big double hamburger, I've never seen a double hamburger or a hamburger that big in all my years of eating those things. All right, Joshua Doors in the chat room. What's going on? We're going on. Okay, Rod in the mobile studio. Yeah, he's in the mobile studio. All right. He definitely identified that he's in a vehicle. So, with that said, cops, and of course, we all know about the history in Milwaukee with the Milwaukee Admiral. And I know John Greenberg is running that, does a really good job over there. So, with that said, Rod, what are your thoughts about the Stanley Cup making its way to Milwaukee?
It's fantastic. I knew that Bill Zito was born in Pittsburgh. I didn't know that he grew up in Milwaukee. I read the story too and all that. And being a broadcaster, I was particularly excited to see the photo of Bob Uecker, who looks like he literally hasn't aged in 40 years. And I think Bill's had a couple days with the cup because I saw him out on the boat fishing with a fish in the cup in Florida. You guys might have seen that like a month ago. And now he's got it up in Milwaukee. Guess what? He deserves it to do whatever he wants with it. So good for Milwaukee.
Yeah, good for Bill Zito. I mean, he's the architect of that franchise anyways. Before then, they were dormant, and all of a sudden the guy walks in, and in a matter of 4 years, their Stanley Cup. I mean, more power to him. 2 days, big deal. It won't be long before he has to defend that trophy, right, George Eichhorn?
That's right. It won't be long. We'll be into another season before you know it. But no, that's pretty cool stuff. I mean, we were spoiled here in Detroit, obviously, in the times when they won the cup and they took it to some cool places. But that's one of the best I've heard of. And and it is a great sports town, and Candy has told us that for years and years, ever since I've known her, what a great sports town they are with baseball and basketball and as you mentioned, the Admirals. And of course, Packers aren't too far away. But it is a special treat. I mean, the National Hockey League has these two guys are assigned wearing these white gloves, to carry that cup out on the ice when there's a chance that it could be won that night, or when it definitely is won either way. The guys that are handling that, the one guy, by the way, I think is retiring. He's retiring after this year's cup was given out. But yeah, it's such a cool thing. It's the best trophy. I mean, let's face it. It's iconic. It's an iconic trophy. I love it. And the players drink from the cup, and the players, I've seen pictures of them putting a baby in the cup and that sort of thing, and going on a boat with the cup, all that, to be saying he did a good job by going back to his roots, taking him back to when he was a clubhouse attendant or bat boy. And Bill Zito deserves that. He's been a long time fixture in the world of pro hockey. Great mind and a great general manager that he is.
Well, keep in mind, the Octopus was a result of winning 8 games against the Cup, and the Red Wings certainly have that tradition. Now the Panthers use the Rats. I mean, and you can get a lot of them, and they're easy to put in your pocket, but they had to do it the hard way. They had to take 8 times 2 equals 16 games, and when you have to go through that grind, you certainly deserve your due. Joshua Dorr, question for Rod: how was the Fanatics event?
I didn't go to the Fanatics event, but I had a reporter there in the name of Jersey Jim. I don't know if you guys have been following this or not. It looks like the biggest sports convention in the history of sports in New York. Jay-Z was there yesterday. Warren Moon. There was Florida Panthers fans there. I didn't see any Panthers people. I didn't go to Fanatics. I had a reporter there. He sent me the photos and I posted them. It's the first of its kind, I think. Fanatics putting it on in New York over 3 days. Mike Richter there from the Rangers autograph booth. Matt Rempe of the Rangers, the 6'8" fighter. That's something I want to go to next year. Fanatics Fan Fest. Fanatics Fest looks incredible.
All right, very good. Our Ralph Williams, RW Media. Hello, everyone from Erie, Pennsylvania. We're coming in from a lot of different places. Good stuff. So, with that said, I think Panthers ended up more power to Bill Zito. I have no problem with the guy. Never met him, never spoken to him. I covered the Panthers for a short period of time, but I've gotten so busy with our platform, it's hard to get to every place that you want to get to. But we'll see. Rod and I are certainly going to work on a lot of things in conjunction with the Panthers. We'll keep you posted as to how it plays out. But Candy, you have the final word on this.
I wanted to say one more thing. one of the places he took the trophy was the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin, and he took it there in an effort to raise awareness about pancreatic cancer because he lost both his mom and his sister to battles with cancer. So in an awareness, I thought that was just really cool because that's a place that a lot of athletes go and get treatments and stuff like that. So that was cool, besides obviously eating red velvet chocolate and vanilla ice cream out of the cup.
My kind of guy.
Now, I'm going to tell you, if you've ever been to Cops here in the Milwaukee area, you have to eat that place. Yeah, like I said, their custard's good, but boy, I've never seen a fur that big. Joshua Dor says, I thought you were there. Looked fun. Well, again, now you got him thinking, Josh. Plans to go there next year. So you can ask him this question at this very time next year if he's been there. All right, we'll stay in Milwaukee. And now the question is, will Milwaukee be a viable expansion NHL city? We all know they've had the Milwaukee Admirals for a while. So, Candy, go ahead.
You know, everybody always talked about Salt Lake City currently preparing for their new team that's going to bring millions of revenue. With a population of 569,000 people in Milwaukee, and Salt Lake City only has 200,000, which do you think really deserves it? And if you go to Milwaukee and the Racine, Waukesha metro area, it totals up to 2 million people. Now, yes, we already have the Brewers and we have the Bucks, and the Packers are further north. Do I think they can sustain it? People have said it's too close to Chicago. Well, but what about New York? They have what, 3 teams within a 23-mile range. I think the Admirals draw. I think if you have the right circumstances, I think you can. I really do. The Bucks just built Fiserv Forum, so they could arrange a deal and get in there, or if they'd have to build a new one, they could. They have the room and the space downtown that they could do that right around the same area. There's room. So could they do it? Yes. Will they do it? I don't know if they're going to expand like that, but I think Milwaukee could support it.
First of all, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid that it's too close to Chicago, because if that's the case, you tell me why the Chicago Cubs and the Brewers are that close and have a nice rivalry there. And if you want to have the White Sox in there, you can do it. Let's talk about whether or not Chicago / Milwaukee, Green Bay, because there was a time when they were playing games at County Stadium. And how far is that from Soldier Field? I've been to both, not that far. And what do you got? The Bucks and the Bulls? I don't buy that stuff. Sorry. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid that it's too close to Chicago. And I'm with you, Candy. I know that they could support it. They have a good thing going there with the Milwaukee Admirals, who / are connected to the Nashville Predators. But I'm with you. They can do it. I don't think they will. All right, Rod, what's your thought?
Wait. I want to add one more thing. I also want to add that the Wisconsin Badgers hockey team, which is collegiate, is currently ranked number 4 in the country. Hockey is good in Wisconsin, and people don't really realize that. But let's face it, it's cold. They have, if anybody else knows, that they have Olympic speed rink. They train Olympians at Wisconsin State Park Fairgrounds. They have a skating rink that was Dan Jansen was part of bringing it to Milwaukee and Wisconsin. So why couldn't we have hockey, NHL hockey? Bring it on.
All right, Joshua Dor wants to ask George a question. What would you drink out of the cup? Yeah, I wonder about that.
Joshua Dor. Well, my favorite is a soda pop in Detroit called Rock and Rye. It's a very unique flavor by a bottling company called Fago. And Rock and Rye is just, I don't know how to describe it. It's so, maybe could be sort of on the line of a Dr. Pepper, but not that. Dr. Pepper is too bittery for me to taste. But anyways, Rock and Rye soda, or they make one called Red Pop, which is their strawberry soda soda. Anyways, that's what I would do with it, Joshua.
All right, you know what? I'm going to double down here on Joshua. I would drink Diet Mountain Dew. You forgot the diet part, though, Joshua. Okay, but I would also have Verner's in there as well. I like Verner's. Drink. So I'll put them both in there. Joshua doesn't know about Verner's, so can't hold that against the guy. But Diet Mountain Dew, yeah, he got that one. So did anyone in Milwaukee try to bring a franchise in? You know what, Candy? That's a pretty fair question.
I'm not, well, because the NHL hasn't said they really wanted to expand there, so I'm not sure, but I bet you there would be a group that would come forward, just like there has been for the Bucks and whatnot. So
Well, Turbo Jet him. He's in. He's checked in. He's eating dinner. Be right back. Okay. We'll move on to the big topic of the night. But before we do that, we're going to do a station break. Candy, go ahead.
were you going to let the other guys talk about expansion in Milwaukee?
Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm thinking ahead. I forgot about
That's okay.
All right. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Rod.
Just it's interesting. I would never's a long time, so I wouldn't say they'll never expand in Milwaukee. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought they would go to Utah. That wasn't even on the radar until Ryan Smith, the owner now of the Utah hockey team, approached Gary Bettman last January for the first time and said, "Hey, we're ready to have a team now in Salt Lake City." In January. And Bettman said, "Well, thank you. I'll keep that under advisement." We'd heard Houston. We'd all kind of thought Houston would be the next relocation city or expansion, or Atlanta, where there are 3 groups in Atlanta trying to bring an NHL team to Atlanta. Nobody was talking about Utah at all. And all of a sudden, boom, there they are. So if the NHL thinks they can make enough money there, they would go there. I still don't think it's in the queue in terms of potential sites. We have not heard it at all, but that's not to say it wouldn't happen, because who thought they would go to Utah? Is my point.
Yeah, no, and we're going to get to the Utah thing in just a moment. But yeah, when you talk about the logistics of Atlanta, the only way they'd even bother to do it is it would have to go to the suburbs, is what they would do. They wouldn't put it in downtown. And we all know that the Braves moved out. George, what do you think about Milwaukee as potential friend?
Well, I agree. You know, like Rod said, we haven't heard about it. That doesn't mean it can't happen. And again, I won't buy that notion, or as Scott says, I won't drink that Kool-Aid that, oh, it's too close to Chicago. Give me a break. Chicago's one of the biggest metropolitan areas in this country. We all know that, outside of New York and LA. And listen, there's multiple teams in New York and LA in multiple sports. So there's and Chicago's got 2 teams. Okay. In baseball, gotcha. But as far as hockey goes, no, I agree for all the reasons you said, Candy. I mean, the Wisconsin Badgers, great program. They've been great for years in the Big Ten. And, Michigan and Michigan State have a tough time beating Wisconsin. It seems like quite a few years in hockey. But there is a precedent, because like you said earlier, with the connection with the U.S. Olympic Committee, and you mentioned a great guy, world champion Dan Jansen with the skating, and Eric Heiden, and the skating spectacular athletes that we've had in the Winter Games over the past 20, 30 years, maybe longer, probably 40 years now. A lot of them did hail from that training center in Milwaukee. So it is a cold weather city. It is definitely a hockey place. And I would keep them on the radar for possibly getting a team, even though I know that they're probably not going to expand maybe for a little bit now that they decided to move. And we'll talk more about that in that segment.
Yeah, other places that I've spoken about on different shows on our network as well as others, I thought Kansas City deserves a second chance. They already have an arena, and they don't have an anchor tenant. There hasn't been a lot of talk about it. And I wouldn't put one in Quebec. We all saw what happened with COVID-19, trying to get off the board. Not so sure if I'm sold. Houston certainly would have been one that was worthy of it. But yeah, Utah came out of nowhere. And now we're going to talk about that in a moment after Candy comes up with another point.
Well, I do want to let everybody know there is a preseason game between the Chicago Blackhawks and the St. Louis Blues that is going to be played in Milwaukee at the Fiserv Forum on October 5th. So they're going to bring, I don't know if they're starting to test the waters to see how it would go, if that is any indication that they might be looking to see if they can sustain a team or not, but they are bringing a preseason neutral site game up to Milwaukee.
Now, you bring that up, but you know what I'd like to see one day? They're going with the obvious choice, Chicago. But for me, I would like to see them bring in a not as popular team over to Fiserv Forum to see where the real test is. We all know Chicago is expected to be good, and they don't have that long of a drive. But bring in some other team out there, and then I would be a bit more definitive on whether I think they would be, but thanks for bringing that up. All right, now, Candy, we do have a station break.
Tonight's show is sponsored by the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company. We published a book back in November. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth, Morgan Roth, and the foreword was written by none other than George Eichhorn. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. We have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get a link to that book, or you can get any of our merchandise. George is sporting the South Florida Tribune hat. You can get all kinds of merchandise from the website, or you can read some of Scott's and George's fabulous articles and my pictures. We also have all kinds of good articles we get some from the Panthers. We get some from NFL teams. We get the transcripts from the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Lions, and a bunch of the local colleges. FAU, Miami Hurricanes, Florida Gators, USF. So go to our website, check it out. If you see the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, click that you want to subscribe because you want to get notification of all of our great programming when it comes on. And then we ask, share it with all your friends and family. Monday nights, we talk hockey. And then we will talk baseball a little later. Tuesday nights is NFL and college football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, sports exchange and fire up. You just never know what we're going to be talking about. So tune in to find out. And if you like to listen to podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, it's available. One last thing, if you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If I talk too fast, it's been scrolling around the bottom. Rewind and listen, or watch it again. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you, Candy. Well done. All right, so final topic tonight has certainly been a very popular topic dating back to April. Now let's bring it to the forefront. We're going to talk about the timeline for the Arizona Coyotes move to Utah, which is what we've been talking about for a while. I know a little bit more about this than a lot of people because I lived in the Phoenix area, moved there at the end of 1999 and left there in 2002. We all know that Waynegretzy could not save the Coyotes at all because no matter what, they've had an arena that they've never been happy with. Now, George and I both know this one all too well, okay? I go to the America West Arena, okay? One goal is actually obstructed and you can't see it. It's one of the worst hockey venues I have ever seen in my life. So if you're looking to meet a new PR guy, I certainly didn't do any favors. The guy's name is Richardnairn, okay? He didn't like my negativity about how I handled the thing. I said that the Coyotes should have played in the Arizona Memorial Coliseum, and where he was playing at was insufficient. Well, it's safe to say Richardnairn and I never would see each other again, and he didn't want me there, and I didn't go in there. The last time I went to the America West Arena was when the Phoenix Suns play there. Nothing against Richardnairn, but that franchise was doomed from the beginning, from the Winnipeg Jets going there. So let's set the table here, okay? Now, all of a sudden, the most recent developments, alexmervelo has decided to walk away from the ownership of the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes here, meanwhile, were reportedly either late paying their hotel bills, get this, or sometimes just crossed out the total and paid a different amount. Ever heard that one done in sports? No, probably not till now. The hotels around, what they did is they bounded together and just demanded that the Coyotes paid for their hotel stays up front by certified check. Can you believe that? And of course, the Mullet Arena, we all know that the place only held 4,000 or 5,000. They weren't happy with the Gila River Arena, which now is, I think, named the Desert Diamond Arena, and that's in Glendale. Now, I understand that the Coyotes fan base was from the east area, but I'll go back a little further on this one. I lived in Chandler, Arizona. They had a place at McDowell and Scottsdale Road. They tore down a shopping center there, and all of a sudden the whole thing fell through. Why? I don't know. I mean, but now all of a sudden we're dealing with the Salt Lake City Coyotes, or now the Utah Hockey Club. So the question is, will it work? But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that their opening game is October 8th, 2024. And who are they going to play? They're going to play the Chicago Blackhawks. And that'll be the 40th different NHL team to play in the Delta Center. I have another story that I'll go with. But you know what, Ron? I'm going to lead off with you on this one. This was an absolute mess.
I was intimately aware of the situation in Arizona. I had my friend owned them from 2015 to 2019. I think there was 5 seasons in there. And you're correct, Scott. I thought that was a tremendous phrase that they were doomed from the start. Rich Nairn, by the way, walked away from the team a year ago because he couldn't work. Well, I'm guessing because he couldn't work for Alexmervelo. That guy sounds to me like an absolute idiot. But they never won. That's the thing. I'm friends with a lot of Phoenicians, a lot of born and raised Phoenicians, not Canadian snowbirds. And they said, don't dump on us for hockey not working in the Valley. This team was terrible, largely for 30 years. And after their 30th season, they moved.
What was your relationship with Rich Nairn?
I knew Rich from Winnipeg when they were still the Winnipeg Jets. I know Rich pretty well, but hey, I'm friends with you, friends with him. We can all be friends.
I've reached out to him a couple times, and he probably remembers me, so I don't think he'd like me. But I wasn't a matter of criticizing him personally. He has to protect his franchise from negative writing. And George and I met a guy who was one of his assistants at the Joe Louis Arena. I think Merritt Tully, I think his name was. You know who I'm talking about? And Merritt told me that unfortunately Rich just overreacted to what I had done. I wasn't doing anything to sing out the Coyotes as an organization. All I'm talking about was the stadium situation was awful from the beginning.
Yeah, well, it's, hey, PR people. It is what it is. But the difference is all they had to do was win, because one thing that I love for the Panthers fans that are watching, I love hearing their stories, guys. Like, I go to all the games for whatever reason. They know who I am, whether it's through the Cats and Bolts podcast or whatever. And they come up to me at Sawgrass Mills Mall, usually before games, and tell me their stories. How they were afraid that they were going to be the Arizona Coyotes when the Panthers rink was empty and they were last place and missed the playoffs for 10 straight years. So, but now the Panthers win and the rink is full. Coyotes never did that. So I love Arizona. I thought I was going to end up there, not Florida. But it is what it is. I would still like to see NHL hockey in Phoenix, and the jury's out on whether it's going to work in Utah either. I still think the key, guys, is winning. That's what it's going to take. And it may be a while, if ever, that the Utah whatevers do.
Well, as I said, I had nothing against Rich. I don't know if he's even watching this thing anyway, but regardless.
We've covered that.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but I'm reiterating, because one of the things I do is reiterate. But the one thing I can tell you right now, though, about the whole thing that the Florida Panthers always had going for them is this. Obviously, they started in Miami. And you know what? They've never had a stadium problem. Listen, I have been in that rink a lot of times, and I will say from the top of my head to the bottom of my foot that arena is one of the best arenas I've ever been in. I don't care what anybody says. I've always enjoyed it. It's always been a very comfortable working environment. It's in Broward County, and that's the one thing where the Coyotes never got it right. Obviously losing, you're not going to draw a lot. And certainly the Panthers are able to draw from a lot of the northeastern population. I don't think the Coyotes had much of that to go after, but at least the Panthers have a lot of transplants. Now, I will say in Arizona, they have Chicago and they have Detroit. Of course, the Red Wings draw everywhere and they travel. But the Panthers have always had a quality venue. Now, obviously, this year, the last couple of years under Mr. Zito, things have really climaxed to a point where they're championship caliber. But and I'm going to get to that. I've got something that may relate, that's going to relate to what you're talking about, whether Arizona, and so with that said, I'm going to talk about whether it will work there in a moment. Well, here, why don't you tell me? Do you think it will work out in Utah?
Well, I've never been to Salt Lake City, so I don't know. I'll say it again. If they win, I think there's a good chance that it will work. I think Gila River Arena is one of the most beautiful arenas I've ever been in. And Murillo walked away from that because he wouldn't pay his bills and basically got kicked out by the city of Glendale. It's been bad ownership all the way around. This, you asked me before we went to air about the new owner of the Utah team. He's a billionaire. His name's Ryan Smith from the tech industry. I think he's in his mid-30s. If he pays his bills and treats his people well, he'll be leaps and bounds ahead of alexmervelo. That's a good start, but they need to win, and I don't know whether they will or not.
Well, Candy and I went to the Gila River Arena, and I'm going to tell you what, I enjoyed that. We paid just to go in there because I figured that's one time when you pay for tickets to have answers to what you're doing on the air. And of course, my buddy RN, okay, I knew he wasn't going to credential me anyways, but regardless, I enjoyed going there with my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and Gila River Arena is really good. It's right next to a mall, and obviously right next to where the Cardinals play. So there's nothing wrong with the stadium. I think it was a nice stadium. It was a quality hockey rink. All right, George, go ahead.
Well, there is a new wrinkle. This has just come out recently. The Phoenix Suns owner, who is...
I was getting to that afterwards.
Yeah,
Stay on point, George.
Okay, we'll get to that later then.
Seriously?
But as far as Arizona
Seriously? Stick with the darn topic, Icorn.
We'll go with
or
Arizona.
I'll send you back to dinner, and then you can stay off for the evening show.
Arizona is now without a team for the new season. I don't know. I just know that they've had a bad history. You guys have all talked about it, the stadium issues, the ownership issues. Whether they can still support a team remains to be seen, but we'll see. Utah, I think they got a great thing going for them. It's called the Olympic Games, okay? Mitt Romney put together a fantastic Olympics many, many years ago, the Winter Games, and now they're coming back. They've been awarded the Winter Games again in the next dozen years or 10 years. I forget how many years it's away, but they do have a rich history of wintertime sports, even though I know what you said, the population isn't as great as obviously in the Phoenix area. But, don't underestimate the fans. I mean, you get a team in there in a new place. They're live. They're just waiting, chomping at the bit, as they say, to support that team. And they're probably the first year, especially, will draw real, real well. But the question is going to be, and you alluded to it, Rod, can they continue to support without a winner? No, I agree with you. They need to have a winner. The Coyotes / Utah Hockey Club is going to have to win. So that being said, what does that do? I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens with that. I still think Arizona can support a team, but I think for the reasons you outlined, Scott, they just have not had good management. They have not had good arenas to play in. And it's got a great population base. I mean, come on, you got the Cactus League. A lot of teams.
George.
Yeah.
Hey, George, let me ask you a question. Okay. I understand that there's a product in the stores called wax. Did somehow, some way, wax land in your ear about staying on point with Utah? Because somehow, some way, I'm probably too far away to give you one ready to give you the sledgehammer. Seriously, twice in one show, this guy, don't remember, the baseball show is later. You can throw the curveballs there, but you don't throw it on hockey. This is frozen pond, not a frozen brain.
All right.
Which is what yours is right now. You've got a frozen brain, Icord. Seriously, really.
Frozen brain. Yes.
Yeah. Seriously. And you know what, Rod? Don't feel too bad. I've only been at him for 40 years, so he's used to this craziness. You're just new to the party here, but don't worry.
Yeah,
Rod, you'll get to see more of it. It's all for your entertainment value, by the way.
I'm highly entertained. Absolutely.
I'm sure you are.
So,
nothing yet.
That's all I got.
Icorn, you can continue to talk to you if you can make some sense. If you can't, we'll turn it over to a lady that does make sense.
I've talked too much about it already.
Yeah. I'm afraid if I look for a character on Hogan's Heroes, I'd have to really find out which one I'd pair you up with. So for all you folks in the chat room, find me a character that meets George Icorn and we'll put it out there in bold print. All right, Candy.
So wait, which question am I talking about? Am I talking about Salt Lake City or Phoenix?
Well, you're talking about both. Well, let's start with the Phoenix.
So let's face it. For all of you that are history buffs, the organization was established on December 27th, 1971 as the Winnipeg Jets, a charter franchise of the World Hockey Association. After 7 WHA seasons, they were one of 4 organizations enfranchised by the NFL on June 22nd, 1979, when the WHA ceased operations. Due to financial troubles, the Jets were sold to American owners who moved the team to Phoenix on July 1st, 1996, and they were renamed the Phoenix Coyotes. The franchise was renamed the Arizona Coyotes on June 27th of 2014. They have had one of their minority owners was arrested. They have had one of their owners filed bankruptcy and the NHL had to take over.
Right.
They have had all kinds of problems between owners, between stadiums, and I had not realized this because I have not been to a ton of NHL games, but I've actually seen Phoenix play in 2 different stadiums. I saw them play at the American West Arena, and I saw them play at the, what is it called now? The Gila River Arena?
I think they're calling it Desert Diamond Arena, but what's the
Desert
difference?
Diamond now.
It was
But
Gila River when we went.
Yes. So I've seen them play at both. I would say when I saw them at the American West Arena that the sight lines were horrible. Where we were. They were horrible. That and you guys all talk about this being a town that can support an NHL team. I'm not convinced that Phoenix maybe is an NHL team because if you think about it, there is a lot of what I would say snowbirds that go to Phoenix, and there's a bunch of them that come to Florida. And there is a part of the winter that they might not be in Phoenix yet, and they might not be there at the end. So whether they can support a team for the whole season, I'm not convinced of that. And maybe that's why they've had some of the problems they've had and cannot support it as well. I'm not sure. I'm just saying, maybe.
To use Scott's term, doomed from the start. Look, when we go out for supper, when I get home to Florida, and I'll tell you more and more and more, that owner friend of mine of the Coyotes flew me there to meet with all their marketing people a number of years ago. And all they did was whine to me about why the Canadians wouldn't come to the games. And I just sat there and listened to it. Fast forward to the Vegas Golden Knights getting a team, and I'm sitting in front of Bill Foley, the owner of the Golden Knights. And I said, hey, you're the tourist capital of North America, maybe the world. Are you hoping to fill this rink with tourists? He said, God, no. We're going to fill this place with Nevada people. And to get season tickets for Golden Knights, you had to have a Nevada address. So the Coyotes were screwed from the start. They had the wrong idea. I told them, get on a plane and fly to Tampa Bay or Dallas and find out how they did it because they sell out every game. And now, listen, if you guys go to those Panthers games, that's South Florida people in the rink. That's who it is. It's not Canadians. So the Coyotes were trying to fill it with Canadian snowbirds. That was never going to work. You know what they told me? We're Canadians. We're in Phoenix because we hate hockey. We hate the cold. We come down here not to watch hockey. We can do that at home. So it was, again, doomed from the start. Vegas did it totally different. They wanted local people in the arena, and to this day, that's what they have. And they already won a Stanley Cup. And Arizona still has it. Go back to 1971. I was listening to everything Candy was listening to or saying. They still haven't won a Stanley Cup, and Vegas did it in 6 years. They just don't know what they're doing. So I hope they figure it out in Utah.
Well, you know what? The only thing that went well for that franchise was they had Bobby Hall on it. That was it. And at that point, they wouldn't even give back the actual, if they had any sense at all, the Winnipeg Jets should have their old logo and everything attached to it because that franchise is dissolved. And I don't know if they even want the Coyotes, which I'll get to in a minute. I want Candy to talk about whether Utah will make it because I have some strong opinions on Utah.
It's hard for me to say because I've never been there. But I think if they do it right and they market it right, I think they can. There's not as much. It's like I said before when we were talking about the Stanley Cup and visiting places and Milwaukee getting the expansion team. Milwaukee has a bigger base of people to draw the attendance from than Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City has only 200,000, I think is what they said. But again, if you do it right, I mean, and you put, one of the things I'm going to say is you're exactly right, Rod. Vegas did it right, but Vegas went out and they were smart. They got core players and good players, and they won quickly. I think that's Salt Lake has to do that, or they could be doomed from the start too. So I think they've got to get the right players in there to get the excitement going.
All right, now I'm going to interject here because I want to hear what everybody had to say. I'm the only one on this panel that's probably see an event there. I saw a hockey team play one time, but sandwiched between two basketball games. I'll tell you what, Utah, it will work there. If Ryan Smith knows how to treat the customers well, they'll win whether they lose or not at the beginning. Number one, they have supported the Utah Jazz well, and I saw games at the Salt Palace before the Delta Center was built, and that place was packed. Here's the reason why it will work, okay? The Utah Jazz were the only game in town. Anytime you have an area with under three major sports, you will definitely make it. And I'll tell you why I say that. Sacramento's done really well for themselves, right? When they were one of the, I mean, where's the money going to go? Do you have any other professional sports that they've been won? Portland has done pretty well. So I do believe in my mind that Utah will support it, and they will support it well. I'm sure a lot of people will be anxious to see what the new name will be about a year from now until they get that thing worked out. But number one, okay, it's proven that it's a winter sports town. And all Ryan Smith has to do is just be friendly to his customers and build a Delta Center where it's a rink where everybody has good sight lines, where it's hockey compatible. But I'm going to tell you one thing about those Utah people, and I enjoyed talking with those people out there when I was there. I went to 3 games there, a hockey one, and I was actually an intermission guest for a team that would end up moving to Detroit to become the Detroit Vipers. So that was kind of ironic how that took out. But anytime you have a smaller town like that, they bond to what they are going to do. I wouldn't even rule out Salt Lake City as a major league franchise down the road either. That's how strong I am on that area. But if you have just 2 professional teams and they're winter, and they even support a AAA team pretty well out there, there's no way they're going to fail. Again, this isn't doomed from the beginning. This was what I consider a dark horse is what it was, because it surprised us that some of those obvious markets weren't there. I mean, right now, when you talk about the Coyotes, you only have one way to go, and that's up. I mean, really, so I have so much confidence in that Utah market that, here's another irony. I met a young lady out in North Carolina named Andrea Urban. Now, why am I bringing her name up? She's a commentator, a newscaster for the local Utah market. Why am I bringing Andrea's name up here? Because number one, she trained under George Blaha in Lansing, and she also was mentored by Fred Heumann. So if anybody understands hockey well enough in our neck of the woods of Metro Detroit, it's her. I'm not trying to just mention her, but I don't think there's any way they're going to lose. I really think that Utah wants to prove to itself that if they're going to get Major League Baseball, this is the right franchise to bring in there in order to turn things around. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is a good opportunity to let people know, hey, we're a major league market, and we want the whole world to know about it. Yes, would instant success be good? Of course it would. But remember one thing, they inherited an absolute mess to begin with. You can't inherit a bigger mess than what Utah's inheriting here with the Coyotes. Again, I reiterate before, Waynegretzy couldn't save this franchise. Waynegretzy couldn't. He didn't play back then. He was coaching. It didn't matter. Well, and again, the biggest thing that we're talking about, the Coyotes were doomed is they had poor ownership. We can only hope and pray that the ownership is much, much better, and I have a strong feeling that it is. And I think Bettman did too, because he doesn't want to buy the franchise back. So what do you got to lose? What did they get? $1.2 billion out of it anyways? And it would have been $200,000 if they had to apply, but we all know that's immaterial. So anybody want to rebuttal what I'm just saying about the fact that even though you're talking about a 200,000 market over there versus some of the other ones that are aforementioned, These are 200. All you need is 12 to 15,000 people to go ahead and fill it in, and you can draw from all over that area. And let's not forget that Utah and Denver will be good rivals, and Utah and Vegas could become good rivals. So we're trying to find rivalries from within that sector where you're going to get people to travel as well. So that's what I think about it, Rod.
I wanted to hear what George was going to say about the Phoenix Suns owner.
Yeah. Well, that's my topic now. That's why.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is my. Hey, Snowman, how are you? This guy here is Snowman is one of my good buddies out here, Ryan Snow, and he's been a cancer survivor. And this guy has all my heart and prayers. One of the nicest people on here, hoping to work with him. So yeah, now we're going to get to that. I want to remind everybody once again that the opening game for the Utah Hockey Club will be October 8th against the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, now we're going to get to that. According to barrybloom, in July, Sportico, and who runs Sportico, Matiushbia could be the latest to bring the NHL back to Phoenix, possibly in a new arena. My only question about this is, while Matt knew all this was going on, okay, why didn't he step up to the plate, okay, and buy this franchise when it was located? And I'm sure he could have worked out a short-term lease with Gila River Arena, because at least he gets a fresh start. That's the only thing. It was there, and Matt didn't step up. I understand that was a bad situation. It was headed toward relocation. But, I'm glad he's interested. And if Matt does do it, would he change the name and get rid of the Coyotes brand and start from something else? All right, George, now you can talk.
Well, Matt Ishbia, people don't know, is protege of Tom Izzo, a great coach. And Matt made his money in the tech industry. He's done a very good job for himself, the owner of the Phoenix Suns. And that is a good question, Scott. I'm not sure why he didn't want to get involved right away, but maybe there was something there that he saw that would delay or complicate the situation for him personally, to try to make a move there to try to keep the Coyotes there, and him possibly purchase the team. He's very young. He's 44 years old. He's got the Phoenix Mercury. He's got the Phoenix Suns. And he definitely is interested, according to the press reports we've seen. And Ishbia, like I said, he's a good businessman. He knows what he's doing, just like he's very common career path like Dan Gilbert of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Ishbia, if anybody's going to able to do it, I would put my money on him that he would able to do it. But I'm not sure right now if that's going to happen sooner or later, because I don't think Gary Bettman is in any hurry right now, or the NHL, to start another expansion team, if you will, in Phoenix. But money talks, and we'll see what happens. I mean, but Matt's a good guy. He's got a lot of knowledge of sports management. He seems to be a good owner from what I've seen. And there's no question that if he gets involved in it, I think that would be a win-win, for Phoenix.
Well, I'm convinced the only way that hockey will survive in Arizona is if Matt Ishbia is the owner. Otherwise, they've exhausted every other possibility. Okay, yeah. Rod, you were so ready to see this topic. Now, give me your perspective on it.
No. I literally just wanted to hear what George had to say. I don't think the NHL will go back to Arizona. I don't think they ever will. There's other cities that literally want the NHL. I bet you they go to Atlanta first. I just think 30 years there, it was so bad. It really did leave a bitter taste in the 7 million people's mouths that live there. And Morello's out. I don't think they'll go back.
All right. So me personally, would love to see the Houston Aeros there return, WHA team. Once upon a time, Gordie Howe and his kids played there. And I already talked about Kansas City, and we know about Milwaukee. But, Houston definitely prime. You have a big market there, and that would create a natural rivalry with the Dallas Stars. But you say no matter what, you don't think they're going back.
That's just the sense that I have. I don't have any inside knowledge at all. But the Dallas Stars, my dad worked for them for 26 years as a scout. And from what I understand, they would welcome a team in Houston. They think it'd be good for business. So I just think that happens before Arizona does. There'd be too much work to go back to Arizona. America West Arena, whatever they're calling it now, It doesn't have great sightlines for basketball, let alone hockey. They can't go there. They'd have to build a new arena. It just seems like too many hurdles. Houston's ready to go. And in a lot of ways, Atlanta's ready to go. That's my thoughts on that.
No, I'm glad. Again, your opinions matter a lot, obviously. And that's why I'm asking you to give me what your thoughts are. I don't, like we both have agreed all show, we knew Arizona was doomed from the beginning anyways. I mean, we haven't changed our position throughout. But, Matiushbia would, if they ever do go back whenever, he's the only shot they have. All right, Candy, you've been able to take it all in. Where do you want to go with that?
I don't think Phoenix will get it back. Let's face it, as I look at some of their attendance figures, their yearly average, their highest was like 15,000 back in 2005 and 6. And it went down to 4,600. Obviously, the stadium, was the reason for that. But will Phoenix ever get it back? I don't think. Why? It didn't work there. They had so many problems between ownership and different stadiums that if there's other places that want it, why would you go back to a place that couldn't sustain it when they had it?
Yeah, but then people in Atlanta right now have had 2 shots at it and they didn't get it right. But the only way it will work this time is when the Atlanta Braves moved out of downtown and they moved to the suburbs. And if indeed they're talking about the hockey team going to the suburbs, then I definitely believe, Rod, that Atlanta deserves a third shot as long as they're leaving downtown. Do you want to provide me your opinion on that?
I want to see the NHL go to Atlanta. My radio show airs in Atlanta. We're known as Atlanta's NHL show on WQEE radio. As I said, there are 3 groups in Atlanta trying to bring a team. One of them led by Anston Carter, former Atlanta Thrasher from the NHL on TNT panel. There's a billionaire automotive guy, Vernon Krause. You can look him up, who's pledged to build an arena north of Atlanta in the suburbs, as you mentioned. They want it. And it's got the population. And we go back to, why did the Atlanta Thrashers not work? Why did the Atlanta Flames not work? They didn't win. It's a miracle that Nashville has survived. They never made the playoffs their first 9 years that they were in. So they changed the expansion rules for the Vegas Golden Knights. And they would, these teams never had a shot. So that's why I would like to see Atlanta. I feel like they're set up and ready to go. I don't buy this. It didn't work twice before, so why would we go back? It didn't work in Phoenix for 30 years. This is different. It's not the same situation.
Yeah, well, you know what? We're going to talk expansion. Seattle, it'll work because, number one, they're missing the Supersonics and they got their winter team. And I've always liked Seattle as a sports town. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'd like to see another team in Atlanta, and they've got the owner that's willing to do it. They're going to build a stadium. So why not give them a third shot? Again, location has a lot to do with it, too, though. Sometimes people prefer to be away from downtown. George and I can tell you right now that when I was back in Metro Detroit, much as I enjoyed covering the Tigers and the Red Wings, and I covered those games, Rod, from time to time, you would always find me in Oakland County covering the Pistons and the Lions over at the Silverdome and the Palace of Auburn Hill. But I get down to downtown Detroit from time to time. But George, he was in downtown Detroit. We had them all covered. It didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
So location does have a little something to do with it. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt Atlanta would make it this time around, and Houston for sure. I mean, I still have a feeling that Kansas City would do well because they don't have a winter sport.
Kansas City Scouts. Yeah, they weren't there that many years, were they? I don't believe.
No, they weren't.
No. Yeah. That's a long time ago, right?
Yeah, well, it's okay. I mean, that's, we're throwing out expansion. We don't get the opportunity to do it too often, but go ahead, Ron.
No, well, while we're speaking of not getting a chance to do things too often, I got to ask you guys about the rink in Detroit, because I've seen the new rink in Edmonton. I've seen the new rink in Vegas, and they're building a new rink in Calgary. I was just there last week. They all say Detroit has by far the nicest arena in the National Hockey League. That's Oilers and Golden Knights people are saying that. Is it that nice, George?
That's very nice to hear, Rod. I think one of the big factors is that the Red Wings have their own practice facility in the basement, which is great. And the amateur teams can come down there and skate. But yeah, the arena is just like, it's like a shopping mall. I mean, there's so much you can do, and places to eat, and souvenir stands and all that. Scott and Candy and I have been there together, and it is a fabulous place. There's no question about it. It doesn't surprise me, Rod, if these other teams have spoke highly of it.
Hey, Ron,
I
have you
gotta
ever
see
been
it.
to have you ever been to Columbus?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, just so you know, I was there one game when the Wings were there. They do have a practice facility, I think, on the other side of the arena is what they have. So, if at least
Yeah.
they did when I was there,
I
but
attended
nothing better than.
I attended the 2007 NHL draft in Columbus, saw Nationwide Arena, beautiful
Right.
facility, great location, but another bad team that's never won.
Well, true, but I'm talking about the arena, not the team. That's what I'm talking about. But as far as Little Caesars Arena, oh gosh, it's amazing. I mean, what's there to say? They got it right. Of course,
Yeah, they did.
hopefully it'll last for the next 75 to 100 years. And if it doesn't, I won't be alive to see the next one go up anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Didn't they build Little Caesars for the Red Wings, but the Pistons also play there? So it was built for hockey.
Correct.
And I think that makes a difference. It
But
wasn't
they
a
have-
basketball stadium, turned into a hockey arena. They had hockey in mind first, and then they brought the basketball team in there. So I think the sight lines are better. I think overall, when you walk around the stadium, there's more memorabilia for hockey. And I think they really brought it all together. Like you walk on, they have planks when they talk about different Red Wing players. And I was just in awe. And I thought it was a really neat stadium to go to.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, Candy. The Detroit Pistons came in there later, but they made some modifications to make it basketball.
they
I haven't
did.
seen a basketball game, but you know what? You get what's a little bit of money to make sure that you have a venue with both teams. I mean, a lot of teams are all located in one arena. What a show! I knew this was going to be a packed show to begin with, and it definitely lived up to it lived up to what I expected. We also have 108 Stitches baseball talk around 9:05, so we're doing okay on time here for sure. But I knew that this show was loaded, sure. So with that said, okay, Candy, any thoughts that you want to add?
No, I'm just, excited to see the next season and how the Panthers are going to come back and how they're going to, what they're going to do, considering they've lost a couple of really key and good players, and to see if they can get back. This is Fire Up Florida. I want to be fired up for them.
Okay, any closing thoughts, Rod?
No, I'm getting excited to get home, get to training camp for the Panthers. And now with baseball behind me, to look at the schedule, look at all these things that have people excited. The rematch against the Oilers, the first battle of Florida, lightning and bolts. I can sniff it now. I can see it. Hockey season's on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you when you do these things. I've always had hockey in my blood for sure. So
Good.
Once you get down here, we're going to make plans to hang out a lot.
Sounds
what
good.
What about you, George? Any closing thoughts?
No, it's going to be another interesting season. I just look forward to it. Of course, Detroit plays in the same division as Tampa Bay and Florida. So those teams see a lot of each other. And Scott's right when he mentioned earlier, he said that Detroit fans travel. They show up in all these towns, even if they are sellouts or not. I mean, Detroit fans really travel. But that being said, yeah, it's right around the corner. I mean, teams are putting their preseason schedules out and selling tickets to their exhibition games and getting their training camp dates all set. So, yeah, it's hockey season is right around the corner. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, yeah, this concludes this edition of Fire Up Florida. But we have a little bit of work to do. Rod, let everybody know they get a hold of you.
At Rod Peterson and at Cats and Bolts Podcast on Twitter. Give us a follow there in Instagram as well. We got a lot going on there. We're very busy. At Rod Peterson. Thank you.
Yeah, not only that, Rod Peterson is a commentator for the South Florida Tribune, and I'm sure at some point when he wants to write, we'll publish his articles as well.
This week.
So Rod Peterson is a member of the South Florida Tribune. Don't forget it, Mr. Peterson. Okay.
Thank you. Happy to be.
You're welcome. George, go ahead. Let everybody know they get a hold of you.
Okay, yeah. Locally, you can read me in the Detroit Monitor newspaper. Online, you can read me in the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune. where at the end of my column, I always have a link to this book that I wrote called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, which features not only me and Scott, it features guys like Ernie Harwell, Bud Lynch, Bruce Martin, Ray Lane, Bob Ufer, George Blaha. But anyways, there's a link to get that book. Thanks, Candy, for the photograph. Well, there it is over my shoulder. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can find me on X at SanGSports99. Look me up in LinkedIn and also Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo. Hey, it's fun being on this show. It's fun being on the baseball show. Sports Exchange, great network. Candy and Scott got going here, and good to be with you too, Rod. Always very knowledgeable, man.
Bet. Same to you. Love your voice, George. I'm captivated.
Yeah, look at this guy. Hey, I don't mind yours either, Peterson. You're pretty good.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm looking forward to the chance that we get to do these things in person or whatever we're going to do.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great.
Once you and Serena get down, Candy and I, the four of us will be the fearsome foursome. And I'm looking forward to us doing a lot of good stuff together. All right, Candy, take us home.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Scott wrote it. It's about how media has changed over his 40-plus years in the business. All kinds of great stories. I mean, he's a great storyteller. Can't you tell? He likes to talk. So go buy his book. George wrote the foreword. There's even a picture of a young Muhammad Ali and young Scott Morganroth. You'll have to buy it to see it. Yes. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can see a link to this book, link to his writings, some of my pictures that I've taken. You can also take a link to, we have a store that has all kinds of fun stuff like sweatshirts and t-shirts and hats and stuff like that with South Florida Tribune logo on it. Also with the Motor City Madmouth logo on it. You can get his book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Apple, and Kindle. And then you can go to our website. You can get all the transcripts from all of your local NFL teams. We also have a lot of college information from USF, FAU, Miami Hurricanes, Florida Gators. See what's going on in their world. You can also listen to our podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, Deezer, you name it. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. But most importantly, if you see that red subscribe button, click it, subscribe to our channel. You'll get notifications of whenever all of our wonderful shows are on. But we also ask you to go out and go with all the people that are on our broadcasting network that give us their time and support them as well. So with that, and one last thing, Tuesday nights, 7:30, if you like to listen to Chicks Talking Sports, go to Chicks and Salsa. I am one of the co-hosts. There's four of us. It's Megan, Carrie, and Jen, and we all talk sports, and you never know what sports we're going to be talking about tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
All right, well, that does it for Fire Up Florida tonight. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is coming at the top of the hour. But meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Rod Peterson, and Candy Ebling, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us, and we will do this again next Monday night. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.